Good morning, my brothers and sisters. We are in the Gospel of John. Jesus was attempted to be stoned in our last episode, so things are very, very exciting. But there's a little pearl that I want to go after today, and that is from John chapter 8, verse 56. Now, Abraham has been brought up over and over again as a good example of being a faithful person, and the Jews are kind of banking on him, saying, who do you think you are? Are you better than Abraham? And Jesus is saying, you're nothing like Abraham. You don't look like him. You don't have the mannerisms. You don't have the faith of him. So they're going back and forth and using Abraham as an example. So he's a little bit of a pawn in this debate that they're having. But there's a treasure here that I think that Jesus tells us something about Abraham that I think is nowhere else in the Bible revealed. And so this is how the New Testament gives light to and gives insight to the Old Testament. So we know a lot about Abraham, obviously, from the Old Testament, but there's stuff in the New Testament that tells us things about Abraham that the Old Testament doesn't tell us or doesn't tell us clearly. So here it is. The Jews are saying, who do you think you are? Are you greater than our father Abraham? And who do you make yourself out to be? And then Jesus says a neat thing about Abraham in John chapter 8, verse 56. Here it is. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. I'm going to read it again. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. So let's imagine that, next Tuesday, we could have a day with Jesus. I hope that would be a day of great anticipation and thought and everything before that. In Luke 17:22, Jesus says to the disciples, he says, hey, the days are coming when you will desire to see just one of the days of the Son of Man. In other words, you're going to miss me when I'm gone. So that's looking backwards. And this passage kind of asks us, I think, to look forward. So let's go to Matthew chapter 13, and let's just explore this concept just a little bit. He says in Matthew 13:17, truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, the coming of Christ, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. Many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. So what do we learn from this? We learn that it's prophets and righteous people. So this is not just for pastors and professionals. This is for us proletariat as well, for us who are trying to be righteous. We are in this game too, and the game is, not game, that's a stupid way to say it, but in this effort to long to see the Lord. And I think it tells us what posture we're supposed to be in and what vision we're supposed to have, which is longing to see. So we have a lot of what the Old Testament guys were waiting for. We have the first coming of Christ. We have his resurrection. We understand so much more. We don't understand everything because there's a second coming going to happen as well. Okay, so the posture should be longing to see it. The second one is in 1 Peter chapter 1. Concerning this salvation, this is verse 10, the prophets who prophesied about the grace that was to be yours searched and inquired carefully, inquiring what person or time the Spirit of Christ in them was indicating when he predicted the sufferings of Christ and the subsequent glories. So that tells us that in the prophets, the Spirit of Christ was inside the prophets, the Spirit of Christ in the Old Testament, inside the prophets, pointing towards Christ in the New Testament. And what posture did they have? They had searching and inquired carefully. So I think that's something that we can learn something from. And then Hebrews chapter 11, this is a really neat conclusion. So Hebrews chapter 11, for those of you who are not familiar with, lists all the great people of the Old Testament and all the faithful people of the Old Testament, and honors them and honors the faith that they have because they didn't quite see what they were getting. So that's summed up in verse 11, chapter 11, verse 13. So it's talking about all these faithful people. All these died in the faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. So teaching points here is these people died in the faith. So there's a teaching point about finishing well and going all the way to your deathbed, whenever that may be, aisle 9, 2 episodes ago. And then anticipate that you're not going to have received everything that's promised. So even us as believers, we've received a lot that's promised. We have Christ, we have the Holy Spirit, the blessings are unbelievable. But there's more to come. There's a second coming to happen, and there's heavenly bodies to receive, and there's things that are still on the horizon. So the point of this is, what posture are we supposed to have as we visualize those things? So this passage in Hebrews, I just love this. They said, you see them and greeted them from afar. So this passage in John that we're talking about with regards to Abraham and the passage in Hebrews, I think they're correlative. In the passage in John, it says, Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He saw it and was glad. And the same thing in Hebrews here is in the Hall of Fame of Faith, these people died in the faith, not having received the things promised, but saw them from afar and greeted them from afar. So here's the teaching point that I want to get to. We're like Abraham in that we don't see things clearly quite yet. We don't have all the information. We need the eyes of faith. We need to have the posture of longing. We need to see his accomplished promises and appreciate the ones we have, but desire a better country, realize that we're not home. And in the meantime, here it is. We need to see and greet from afar. So how would we greet people from afar? Maybe at an airport or something where we see someone about. It's giving this enthusiastic greeting. It's like I see you from afar and you go, yoo-hoo, hey-ho, hey, over here, over here. That's the spirit that I think the Lord is asking us to greet his promises, like the people in Hebrews, see them and greet them from afar. An enthusiasm, an anticipatory. So as we see these promises to the Lord, here's our prayer today. Hey ho, Lord, yoo-hoo, hey, over here, I want those promises. I see you, they're coming. Have a great day.